Introduction. Asians have one of the highest rates of living with dementia, and yet there is very little resource out there to help them. This book, published by Dementia Pathfinders CIC, written and drawn by Jatinder, edited by Victoria Smith, seeks to address that resource shortage. Some of the images are based on Jatinder's own life experiences. It also comes with a companion book, written in English, Hindi, Punjabi, and Urdu. This gives a very brief description of the images that may also help to start the conversation between generations, families, friends, and carers. The first book, Asian Colouring Book, sought to look at images from Asia and coming to England. This book looks at what the people who came over and those born in their new home saw and did. We hope you enjoy this resource. Audio created using TT-SMaker, text-to-speak website.
Bus. Bus driving was a common vocation for many Asians. The buses often carried signs on the side advertising various things. I've depicted Panam because my parents used Panam to fly to India once they'd settled in England. And they would sometimes bring me gifts that they'd received on the aeroplane. The challenge here is, can you think of advertising that may have appeared on the side of buses, such as Ford Cortina cars, Ferguson televisions and Woolworths?
Cinema. The cinema is an important part of Asian culture. Often on the big screen, you would see the silhouette when somebody stood up in front of the projection. The silhouette of a person walking across the screen would often annoy various cinema goers. The other aspect of cinema was to have an usher that would sell ice creams, popcorn and various other things. This no longer appears to be the case in cinemas, but it was a fundamental part of the experience of going to the cinema.
Many Asians entered heavy industry, working as engineers or in foundries doing various jobs involving heavy, noisy, and sometimes dangerous work. Most jobs, not only in industry, but even white-collar jobs, required employees to use the clocking-in machine, where people would clock in and clock out during lunch breaks, when they were at work. My father went to Germany in 1964 to obtain diplomas in engineering before coming to the UK. He used to wear a green and orange tie, which I wear on special occasions, such as when I went to Brussels to train the Coca-Cola help desk. My father went to learn and his son went to teach.
Grocers' shops became a commonplace on the side streets of England. Many were run by Asians. These would open long hours, and they would sell a wide variety of goods. Everything from paraffin to heat homes, conventional products like apples, and drinks to exotic foods, such as sugarcane, ginger, garlic, bitter gourd. This was a vegetable that is said to have health properties. The corner shop provided a vital local service before the abundance of cars and better public transport made it more convenient to travel to larger and cheaper supermarkets.
Memory chest. The memory chest is inspired by Carl Case, Cultural Appropriate Resources Director, and has various accreditations to his name. In this instance, the chest represents the transition from Asian dress to Western culture. Often the men would come first to find work and accommodation before bringing the rest of the family over. As India was a British colony and many Asians were in the British Army, they and their families may already have British citizenship.
Pools. The pools man, along with other callers such as the coalman, the scrap man and the milkman, were a regular weekly, or in the case of the milkman, daily callers, which are rarely seen on our streets today. The idea of the pools was to guess which teams will draw with the opposing football team. The more draws, the more you could win. Although the pools were a matter of luck, and it may help to have some knowledge of the teams. The other coupon that the pools man collected was Spot the Ball. This was an easy way for people to get involved with the pools process by just putting X's on the coupon. Whoever managed to pot an X on the location of the ball when the photo was taken won a prize.
Sari shop. Sari shops often sell a variety of accessories to go with the sari. These include shoes, handbags, bangles, costume jewelry and necklaces often used at weddings. The sari is a long piece of cloth. It's folded around the waist and wrapped around the shoulder or head. These shops often sell cloth that can be taken home and made into Indian-style dress, or in some cases the cloth is given to a dressmaker. These dressmakers would also work from home.
Sewing. My mother was a seamstress, often working in various factories and sometimes working from home. She sewed various items included dresses, coats and fluffy toys, which includes big teddy bears and various other things. These factories were often small-scale, employing only a handful of people, maybe 5 or 10. And often these factories would be local.
Spices. Indian homes often have a spice container made of metal as shown, or a nicely carved wooden spice rack. These included cumin, turmeric, paprika, salt, black pepper, mustard seeds, and garam masala. Garam masala was sometimes made at home by taking a variety of spices and grinding them in a pestle and mortar. Spices are important commodities as they help to preserve food.
Tea. There are various ways of making tea. The one that the artist is most familiar with is using a saucepan to boil water, adding cardamom, cloves, fennel and cinnamon. Then tea leaves are added. Boil for a couple of minutes to allow the tea to saturate the water. Add milk and sugar, then boil again. The tea is poured through a strainer into a glass rather than a cup and is ready to drink. Tea may include dishes like dokla, a spongy steamed yellow dish made with gram flour, basan, and spices, samosas, and sweet dishes like barfi, made with milk, and gulab jamun. The savory dishes were often served with tomato ketchup.
As with most weddings, pictures are taken of the bride and groom in classic poses, a groom sitting down and the bride next to him. During Indian weddings, quite often the groom would wear heavy mascara. This would be applied by sisters, cousins or other female family members. This is to ward off evil. The bride would often have her face covered by the veil over her head. Normally after the wedding, the brother-in-laws, cousins or male members of the family would offer a payment for her to actually reveal her face, which could be the first time that the family actually sees the bride's face.
Wrestling is a very popular sport amongst many Asians. It was common for families to gather round the television at 4 p.m. on a Saturday evening to watch World of Sport Wrestling. There were many flamboyant characters, and at one time the world champion, Dara Singh, was from India. Wrestling was so popular they held live events. Venues included the Digbit Civic Centre in Birmingham,